Hi everyone, this is John. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to export a no limits track and export a no limits track, put it into Fusion 360, and then model track pieces to be 3D printed. Alright, so going right into it, I have this little dive loop or Immelman model built on no limits right now. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to unfreeze it, just kind of show off a little shaping and everything. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to hit Export Track Spline. So I like to export my track spline. I like to do a center of rails because it's easier to model track this way, and it looks better whenever you put it in Fusion 360 because whenever they come in as 3 different lines, and then that's exactly what the track will look like and where the track will be, where the spline and the rails and everything. So I like doing it this way. So the distance between points, I like to do 0.39 meters, and this is to model track that is 1/30th scale with 3-foot distance between the 2 rails. This is 1/30th scale. This is just the scale I've chosen to model all my stuff in. All right, so hit OK. And then you're going to want to choose where you want to put in your track spline. So make a new folder. Just call it YouTube video. Okay. Where'd that go? There it is. And then let's name it. We'll call it Immelman, or how about dive loop? So I don't know if I'll get the spelling right. Hit save. Okay, and it should be exported. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually open up the track spline and slice it in a spline track extractor program. Now I'm going to link this program in the description, but pretty much I found it on a Discord. Some guy just made it because he was sick of trying to manually do the inputs in Excel. So pretty much what I just did is I just exported a bunch of XYZ points for a single spline that's in the center of the rails. And so what this program is going to do is going to help me slice it and give me the rails on either side, along with some other stuff that'll help me model it easier. So I'm going to open this up, and then we're going to select an input path. So we're going to find that track export we just did. It goes in YouTube video. There it is. Sorry, I was thinking it was in alphabetical order. There we go. Then we're going to select an output path and put that in the YouTube video again. Let's see. Where is that? Go. And I'll call this Spline Exports. Okay, so now we have our input and output folder path set. So next thing we're going to do is select the splines to extract. So I want a center, I want a left rail, a right rail, and then I want a bottom here. And then on top of that, we need to adjust the distances to center. So this is how far from that center line each rail is going to be. So with this program, I found that it's always a bit wonky whenever it gives me an output. Whenever I bring in the Fusion 360, I feel like the scaling and the distances to center is never what I actually put in here. Like it changes it for sure, but it's always off by a magnitude. I think it's either something to do with how the splines export into Fusion, or maybe something else. Like this scaling feature here, it never works for me. I know the guy that made the program, he said he made it kind of quickly. So I don't know if it's just something where you just didn't program it and you just never really checked, or what, or maybe I just downloaded something wrong. Regardless, even though it has its issues, for me, it's still really helpful, because or else you'd have to be manually doing all this stuff in Excel, which is annoying. So my roller coasters, I modeled it to have a 3-foot distance between the left and right rail if it was 1:1 scale. So reading that down into, so dividing, like I said, it's 1/30th scale. So if I want that 3-foot distance, dividing that by 30 would give me a distance between rails of 1.2 inches in real life. So if you set it up like this is going to give you 1.2 inches between the 2 center rails, which is a good 1/30th scale coaster. Now, if you want to change it, I would recommend you're going to have to play around with this program. I'll show you a way to verify it later on in the video. But you're really just going to have to do a little bit of a trial and error process to figure out what the best distance to center is to set these values depending on what scale you're modeling. So for me, if you want to do, like I said, the 1/30th scale with a 3-foot gauge between the 2 rails, you're going to set the left, right, and bottom to 4.572. And then you're going to put that in for the left, right, and then bottom. You can put it in for the top, but we're not extracting the top, so it doesn't matter. So then from there, we're going to want to do a split type. So it should pop up on here. I don't know why it's not coming in. Let me double check it. Okay, so for whatever reason, you should see a cut preview, but for whatever reason, it's not coming in. That's not too big of a deal. So we're going to set it to split after X nodes. This is going to split it up into the separate track pieces. And for me, I'm going to set mine to every 12 nodes, I want to say. Okay, so anyways, we pretty much have everything set to give us the track pieces. So let's hit calculate. And it says extraction finished without errors. You want to open output folder? Yes, let's see how this turned out. And there we are. Okay. So now we're ready to put them into Fusion 360. So now here we are at Fusion 360. I'm going to create a new file. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new component. And we'll just call it track 0. Hit OK. We're going to go to Utilities, Add-ins, and then Import Spline CSV. So we're going to go find where we exported all those track pieces. And it will be in YouTube video, Spline exports, here we all are. So I'm going to export track 0, bottom, center, left, right. Alright, where are they? There they are. So here it is. Here's our Spline exports. And now one thing you might notice is, remember how I said it needs to be 1.2 inches? That's right around 30.48 millimeters. Right now my document setting is it's in millimeters, and if you measure, it's only 9.144, which is way too big. However, to fix this, I found that the easiest way is then if you select all of them, and then you go to Modify, Scale. Now let's select the origin. Where's the origin? There's the origin. And then we'll multiply it by 3.33333. And that should give us the perfect what we need. So let's double check it now. 15.24, and then like I said, 30.48 is what we're looking for. And there we go, 30.48, exact distance we need. So these are our rails for the coaster, and our spline is down there. So as you might have figured out, this isn't exactly, it's a strange method because you have to scale it twice. You have to scale it once in Fusion, and like I said, the numbers I'm plugging into here seem to be almost at random. And pretty much how I figured out this 4.572 number was I did a ton of just trial and error, just measuring out the distance between here after I would scale it and to get that 30.48 distance I was looking for. It's just a ton of trial and error, and eventually I came across that this 4.572 number was perfect. Now, if I'm being honest, I can't quite remember. I did this months ago where I figured out this number, just wrote it down, and was done with it. I kind of forget how I came to this conclusion, other than as a trial and error process. I forget exactly how this program reads it. I know it has something to do with the way Fusion reads the points whenever you import them in. I think they read them as centimeters. I could be wrong. I'll put it up on the screen after I edit this video to figure out exactly how it's reading them. But this is great if you want to make a 1/30th scale coaster that has a 3-foot distance between the two center of rails. Now, if you want to do something different, like a 1/48th scale and have the distance between rails, something else, you're going to have to do your own trial and error process with this program. But I will show you guys a way to verify that these splines are actually accurate to the no limits data at the end of this video, a verification method. All right, so anyways, moving on. I'm going to go off camera and export all these track splines so then we can have the full loop to model off of. Okay, I exported them all in. Now the last thing I have to do is scale them by 33.333. So let's hit scale, select the origin point. If you select the same origin point for all of them, they'll scale exactly and perfectly. So 3.33333, doesn't quite matter how. And there we go. Now we have a nice little dive loop. Alright, so I'm going to move all these points over towards the origin, or else every time you start a sketch, it'll shoot you back over here, which is not where you want to be, so it can be very annoying. So that looks about right. Now I'm going to hide this origin. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys how to create a track piece. And it's pretty simple, because all you want to do is just model the spline and add indents to then insert cross ties into, because if you're 3D printing, it makes the most sense to do it similar to like a Coaster Dynamics roller coaster, where the spline, cross ties and the rails are all separate pieces, so you can get a better degree of accuracy, but also show a method if you just want to 3D print everything as one. So to start, let's create another component within the track itself, and we'll call this just the spline. So there we go, and now we're going to make 3-point planes on all these different points where we want a cross tie to be, and also at the either end of the track. So plane to 3 points, and I'm just going to click on all these points here. So as I said, we'll add in track piece every 2, or a cross tie position at every 2 using these planes. Okay. And like I said, one at the end here. Okay. So there we go, we have these planes set up. So next what we're going to do is we're actually going to create the spline that will be swept. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line, just a random line, and then we'll use these constraints to make sure they're right on the track pieces. So I'm going to select this one here. Oh, that's great. Let's go back. Let's try this again to make sure it's the point, and then we'll have 1 point here, and then right there again. Perfect. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to drop down where we want the spline position to be. This can be anywhere. I'm used to modeling Vekoma style track, but I'll model B&M to change it up. How about, so let's just go, let's go 8 millimeters right here. And then since they do rectangular stuff, we'll add a rectangle. Let's see, let's do, how about 10 by 8, how about? And the last thing is this is vertical. You can't have it vertical because it's not going to be in line with the start here. So delete that, and then add a constraint. You hold control, you can select 2 different lines at once, and then we'll make a parallel constraint right here. There we go, that's fully defined. So what I'm going to do is before I finish the sketch, just copy it. It'll make a lot more sense later down. So Control C that bad boy, finish sketch. Okay. So next we are going to do a sweep. So add this sweep function. And make sure you do path plus guide rail. If you do a single path, it's not going to follow the rails perfectly. So path plus guide rail, here's a profile. Make it follow, how about this path down here, and we'll have a guide rail up here. And there we go, there's our sweep. Now you might think, set it to 1.0, and we'll just be done with it. But you actually don't want to do it, because see how at the end of the plane, it's not perfectly, that this surface isn't parallel with the plane. That can cause issues when you actually attach your track splines together, where they'll be slightly misaligned. I don't think it'll be anything crazy, because as you can see, this is such a small distance, but if you ever want to do an FEA or something on your model, it'll cause issues. So what I like to do is have 2 splines, 1.0, instead of doing 1.0, do 0.51, so right slightly over half. And then what I like to do is then add another spline on the other side to ensure that each track piece, the faces of each track will be perfectly parallel with each other. So then, if you notice, the 2 lines went away, so we need to get those lines back. So we're gonna have to open up the sketches, and then find the ones that disappeared. There we go. And now we're on this side. Remember how I copied and pasted it? That's why. So let's just put that there. Okay, and then this should be, yeah, okay, none of that's defined, so we should be all right. So good, select that with this coincide constraint, select where you want it, right there, and then just to double check, make sure we're clicking the right thing. Oop, not the line, the point. All right, there we go. Hit finish sketch. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sweep it the other way. Bottom as path and guide rail as the top. Oh, perfect. So sometimes you get this stupid error that says the profile cannot be intersected with the rail. Try changing the profile or rail. I don't know why it does this. I think it's something because it worked fine whenever you did it on the other spline, but sometimes it just doesn't want to work the other way. So sometimes you just adjust the distance, it'll work, but nope. So what you're going to want to do in this kind of situation is you're going to change the plane. So let's see, let's go find that plane that closes itself, go to the construction, plane 8. So it's reading it off of, the plane was made on this point and this point. If we want to choose this as the guide rail, we need to have the plane read off of this point, and this point. So let's make that change. Boom, boom, boom. Hit OK. And then we need to edit the sketch. And then we'll have it where it goes from here to here. Okay. If you hold Control, you can select those 2 points as well. Hit constrain. There we go. And then I believe I made this right around. Okay, this is 8 millimeters. 8 millimeters. Double check to make sure this is perpendicular. And then last thing, for whatever reason this isn't wanting to move, so I'm just gonna make a new rectangle. Actually, there we go. Now let's just make a new rectangle. I believe I said to 10 by 8. And like I said, get rid of this vertical constraint and just make it parallel. Or I guess you can make it perpendicular to either one of these lines. But I'll do parallel for consistency. Hit finish sketch. And that's how you fix that issue. You could just make all your planes on these center lines. I don't know. I kind of got in the habit of just setting these 3 points instead. So if this just happens, I just go through this error. I guess it's really not optimized, but oh well. And then this time it should work. There we go. Perfect. So like I said, do 0.51 to meet up with that other one, and then set it from cut to join. And there you go. Now you do get sometimes these weird intersections here. I use the Prusa slicer, and I've never had an issue with slicing these, even though it looks kind of ugly, but I like doing this method because it ensures that the 2 track pieces, whenever they come together, these 2 planes are perfectly parallel. Okay. So going into this next, how I like to make these track pieces, as I said, I like to print out the cross ties separately and then just insert them into little inserts on the track. So we need to make these inserts to insert the cross ties essentially. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a poor man's cut. So kind of the same method as creating these track splines. So I'm add one starting at this origin, and then we'll make them coincide with this point over here. So make sure you select that point, There you go, perfect. Drop it down from the center line, and let's see, this is at 8, so let's just set the, we'll set it so it's, again, 8 millimeters. The cut stops halfway through the spline. So then from there, we'll have one going out by maybe 12 this way, one going out by 12 this way, or not. Again, Fusion has its issues sometimes. Oops. And I'll just bring it straight up. Okay, and then we're almost there. The last thing we need to do is there's nothing that's going to center a cross tie whenever we insert it in here. So what I'm going to do is add a little insert tab. So we'll do 3.8 down here or up. Again, I don't understand why Fusion does that, but whatever. It's perpendicular. 3.8 in. Actually, let's go 2.8 in, because that's getting pretty close to the bottom, actually. So again, with Fusion, sometimes it doesn't let you select the dimensions that are within the bodies, so just hide bodies, 2.8, and then you can bring them back. There we go. And then we'll make a 2.8 line over here, 2.8, and then we'll make this midpoint on this line, so midpoint, and then we need to make it perpendicular. There we go, and then one last little thing. Perpendicular to that, and then let's make this just a center line. This will be slightly annoying, so let's optimize this too by let's trim this line out. And then let's add in some. There we go. That should be. Why is that? That's a dimension line. Okay, yeah. There we go. And that should be one face that we can select. Okay, let's bring back the bodies. So again, one last time, before you do anything else, just copy this full sketch and hit Control-C, and then we'll use that to just copy and paste them in onto all these planes. So now we finished the sketch. The last thing we gotta do is we gotta just do an extrude. So I'm gonna set mine to 3.2 millimeters. That's how big I want to extrude. Now make sure you do it symmetrical, and then you do it the whole length. That way it'll be perfectly centered. I guess you can just do one side, but I like this way better because it makes it a little bit more even as it's moving through. Okay, so there's a nice spot to put in a cross tie now. So I'm going to add in, pretty much just copy and paste this. I'll do it to the next one as well. Now that you have this made, it's really easy. I definitely recommend creating this in a way, though, that allows this to be easily scaled without messing up this whole thing. Like, oh, look, right here we have an issue. This needs to be 2.8. So why is it doing this? Oh, because I think I deleted a sketch. Yeah, I deleted this dimension that was defining this. So again, always double check your work by just doing what I did, just messing around with it. So there we go. Now that's defined. And then as long as that's always farther, which it should be, it will be okay. Now let's just select this again. Don't know what's happening there. Let's add in a line twice. So again, good thing I double check my work. So Control C. There, now that'll be ready to go. Now let's make this coincide with the 2 rail points. So right there. Just click it again. Again, it can be kind of sketchy or glitchy, but it usually works no issues. There we go. And whole length. Okay, so I'm gonna go off camera and add in all these cuts, and then we'll go from there. See you in a second. One thing I thought of as I was going through here, actually, if you might want to consider, or if you consider maybe dimensioning this line here so this stays consistent, so you're not dealing with crap like this where it goes in and all out. I wouldn't do that because it will, if you dimension this as 1.2 inches, which is the distance between the 2 lines, Fusion isn't going to like it when you try and make it coincide with these points. So I just leave it undefined. It'll make it a little bit easier in the long run. Okay, I'm back, and here we have all the inserts for the cross ties done. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some tabs on either end so then they can, so track pieces can be inserted into each other. So let's create a plane right here. Let's see, we'll add a line going through the center. Then I'm going to use a square tab, essentially. And this will be an insert tab, so let's make this, let's do, how about, let's do 5 by 5 millimeters. And then let's add a parallel constraint up here. Finish that. And let's go in by 6. 7, how about? Okay, and then on the other end, let's make an insert tab. I guess a mail tab, I think they're called. And then let's see, I set that last one to 5, so let's go 4.5 for the print constraints. Okay, and let's bring this out by 6, because remember, it's being inserted into the track piece. So 6, and then the last thing is I like to use M3 screws for all my hardware. So I'm going to add a spot to actually insert in the M3 screws, because if you add a 0.5 millimeter tolerance between here and here, that will create a loose connection whenever you 3D print, at least for my printer. So if you didn't add in that screws, that really tightens it up. So I'm adding a 3 millimeter hole for a screw insert. There we go. And we'll add one on this side too. Make sure you measure 3 out from the face of the track piece and not from out here. Okay, so now you have your first track piece modeled. So one thing you might notice is that 1, there's no cross ties, and 2, there's no supports. So I'm going to go into doing that next. So let's create a cross tie. So go back out of this track and let's make new component, call it cross tie. Okay. Make sure you click up here. There we go. New component, cross tie. There we go. All right, let's create a sketch. Let's see, like as I said, the track, this distance here is 1.2 inches or 30.48 millimeters. So the cool thing with Fusion is you just add in 1.2 IN, it will do the conversion for you. Let's make this, let's put this on the origin, how about? And then we'll make this flat. And then the other thing is, remember how we did those poor man cuts into it? The distance from this line down to here, that was 8 millimeters. So let's make a cross tie that fits that perfectly, 8 millimeters. Okay. And then the next thing we want, let's add a base. There we go. And then I believe our track pieces are 10 millimeters across. Yes. So make this 10. And go. Now, as I said, I use tubing on all my track pieces similar to Connects. I usually just buy brake tubing, then I have a 3D jig that'll cut into 2 slots to put in the rails. So I use 4 millimeter outer dimension rails on mine, so I'm just going to model it as if it was that. So there's the rail on this side, rail on this side, and then the inner dimension for those rails are 2.5 millimeters. So we'll set them to 2.4, how about? And again over here, 2.4. And then from there, see, let's add a crossbar. Another one here. Notice how I'm making them purposely wonky so I know that these constraints I'm about to add in are working properly. So there's one constraint, there's 2 constraints. And then let's give this a thickness of, how about 2 millimeters? Oh, or it's just going to be failed to solve. Okay, let's just delete this line. Let's see if this one's on right. Yeah, that one's fine. Oh, I think I was setting it to be 2. I should have been putting it as 1. Oh well. 1. Okay, let's make this a construction line to make it a little bit easier. And now, in order to ensure that the rails hug the circle a little bit more, because I want to have a smaller slot whenever I cut them out. This 2 millimeter thing here, that seems to be a bit too big, so let's make it 1 millimeters right there. At least in my experience, I've never had issues with it being. I never had issues with this being too thin. The cross ties are pretty strong, surprisingly. But it depends on the printer, really. I have a Prusa Mini that is really it's just really good. It's really good at printing out all these small little pieces. So I think if you have one of those, you shouldn't have too many issues. But again, it kind of depends on the printer. This is just how I do it, as I said. And let's give this 1.5. How about, there we go, 0.5. There we go. That'll ensure we have a smaller cut so really hug the center rail. And then let's do it on the other end. Okay, there you go. That's about good. And then the last thing, or no, 2 more things. So remember how I set that tab to be 2.8? Let's set this to be 2.4. 2.6, how about? Slightly smaller so it can insert easily. Okay. That tab's done. And then for the up spot, this is, so where you want to put this in position to the rail, it's really going to depend on your train design. But since it's really going to depend on your train design, I'm sure the inner side of your bogie will be a lot further in. So this just be up to you how you want to design your cross ties. But let's just do, let's do a 120 degrees. Yeah, that'll be enough. Okay, hit finish sketch. And then next thing you're going to do is just extrude everything. So we set this gap here to be 3.2 millimeters. So let's make this 3 millimeters. These tolerances I'm setting, they're just based off of how my printer prints. A lot of trial and error. You guys might have to set your tolerances differently. Just depends. Okay, so there. Now we have a cross tie put in. And now let's double check to make sure they're going to put the rails exactly where we want them. So let's joint these 2 components now. Put one on the bottom, put the other one right here. Turn at 90 degrees, and then I believe we have, I think this is 0.2 tolerance we added on here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And just by visual inspection, we can see that the rail lines are going straight through. And this is also why I do center of rails, not the editor spline and no limits, so I can double check this a lot easier. So there you go. That looks pretty perfect. Now, if you really want to get detailed with your model, you can always copy and paste these cross ties. So hit Control C and then paste as new. It'll paste as a new component if you really want to put them in. But I don't see the point to it. Especially, this is mainly just to double check. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna want to print these separately, and then if you're building it like a Connect coaster, you're gonna want to print these separately, and then it'll so it doesn't really matter if they're in the model or not. But let's say you want to print these track pieces as just one piece. I'm going to show you how to make that now. Go through a couple different options for you. So let's copy and paste this cross tie. Copy. And then I'm actually going to remove this joint. So again, hide the bodies. Hide both bodies, I guess. Delete. And then let's bring them back. So in order to make it easily printable as just one solid track piece in Fusion, there's two things you can do. Either A, whenever you're building the spline, instead of making these cuts, you can just make them, you can pretty much model the cross tie right here, sketch, and then hit join, so just put them in like that. Or if you've already, let's say you've been following along and you want to make this just one solid track piece with the cross ties printed with the spline, then what you're going to want to do is pretty much copy this cross tie you made down here, then go into the spline, and then hit paste as new. And then we're at a joint here and here. Same thing, and then bring it up by 0.2 for that tolerance we added. And then now, whenever you go to the 3D print, and just hit spline, you'll see that it's collecting this cross tie all as one piece. So it'll be printed out as one piece on your exporter. So that's if you want to do it. So then you pretty much just copy and paste over my cross ties, add the joint, put them in. And that's that, but that's going to take forever. I just want to show you guys that's an option you also have, but I'm going to stick with the way I know, which is printing everything out separately. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to make the supports on these track pieces, because it can be a bit confusing at times. So to start off these supports, the first thing I like to do is drop in a plane, so hit offset plane. I usually try and drop it towards the center. Usually doesn't look like there's a good center, so let's put it right on this cross tie here. Let's drop it down, let's go, how about 8 millimeters? Yeah, 8 millimeters down, how about? Hit OK. And then what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start a sketch on this plane right here. This is inside the insert. I'm going to draw a line connecting this wall to this wall so it's centered. Oh, what's happening? Ooh, actually, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong insert, I think. Yeah, I'm in this one. There we go. There we go. And then let's make a box here. We'll make this 10 by 10 because that's the width. And last thing is we need to find that parallel. There it is. Hide this body. Let's select this constraint right here. Delete that. Bring back the body. Let's add a parallel constraint between here and here. How about hit finish sketch? And then on this plane we drop down. Let's say we're going with a circular support kind of shape. So let's add in a circular support. Right, I just drew it directly on the center line of that thing. On the square. There we go. Now let's do a loft. Alright, again, we need to hide the bodies. Select that one. Make sure you have that too. Bring back the bodies. Oh, that looks like garbage. Okay, I think I know what happened. So I think it's the order I selected stuff. Let's try that again. Loft. And connect it to that one. Select the bodies. There we go. And change that to join. And there we go. Now we have a nice little connector. So then from there, we need to create a component that's just the supports. So let's add new component. Oh, make sure you select the whole thing if you want to add it on this big timeline. New component, support. Okay, so let's choose where we want to make this first plane. I think let's have it right here. Let's have it offset a plane here. Let's say we're building a ground to be 20 millimeters up. Let's say this plane here. This is the ground that everything's going to be based off of. So what we are going to do first is let's create a plane between a 3-point plane. Let's select this point here, this point down here. That's going to drop it in. And it doesn't matter where we select our next point because we just want to draw a line that's normal to this face going straight down. So right there, yeah, that works. Let's start the support. And then what we're going to do is let's project this here. So hit P for project. Let's select that face. Let's try that again. P for project. Hit OK. Why is it not coming in? Okay, changing it. Let's add a line that goes normal to this face. So if we draw a line from here to this point here, hit coincide. And then we could just draw another line straight down. Let's make this 16. How about? All right. What we're going to do is pretty much just make a wireframe of all these supports. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add a projection. So we drew this line that's normal to it going straight down. Hit finish sketch, and we're pretty much just going to create a wireframe of this, what we want the support to look like. So let's say we want to add a point that goes from here directly straight down and then one over. So we need to pretty much draw a plane that's perpendicular to this that goes from this point straight down. So to make sure this point is perfectly vertical, what we're going to need to do is hit create sketch. Let's create a sketch right here. And then what we're going to want to do is project this line down. So hit project, hit OK. There we go. And then we'll add a line that is, let's make it perfectly perpendicular to here. Doesn't matter how far out you go. 15, finish sketch. Now I'll do construction through 3 points. Let's put one through this point, and this point. And then there's something we can draw our wireframe on. So next hit create sketch. We'll make this track perfectly vertical going straight to this line here. And then we'll make this, how about, that looks about right. Make sure these two are horizontal, and we'll add a degree angle in here. Let's make this 40 degrees. Perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we need a little bit of a straight pit going down here. So we'll make this 2 millimeters down, and then another 2 millimeters down this. There we go. That's so whenever we connect them to the footers, this will be straight. So hit finish sketch. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add a sketch like that. We're going to make a sketch right here. Let's make a 10 millimeter support base. Finish sketch, and then let's sweep it. It's a single path because it's a circle. Let's make the first path go from here to here, and down one more. Oh, it's following that already. Perfect. Now it's clipping up into the track piece. We don't need this, so just remove that. Hit OK. Then the next part is we'll make another sketch. Let's start it. How about? Let's start it right down here instead. So do path along plane. Bring this down all the way to the bottom. Hit OK. And as I said before, let's make it 10 millimeters. Keep it consistent. Hit 10. Hit finish sketch. Now, since this is a vertical line, you can use the extrude function, but it'll get a little wonky here. So I'd recommend sticking with the sweep. Like a path. We'll have it go straight up there, and if we want to make it fancy, we can try and flip it up, hit join, and then make sure it doesn't flip through. Okay, so that's how to make a support. Very basic, crude. It's not very pretty, I know. Usually, if you spend a little more time with this, you can really make these supports look a lot better. This is too long, I can just tell by looking at it. But I just kind of want to show how you can use the projections to really get these perfectly vertical. So what I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to make all these track pieces. But what I'm really going to do is that since I've made this into a model already, this big loop. So I'm just going to change my tab and look at that. I somehow magically modeled everything, and I went from a B&M style to a Vacona style. I guess I'll go into some of the details I add. So you might notice that there's a gap between all the supports. And this is so I can separately print out a flange piece that looks like it's connecting the track pieces. So there we go. So these parts here, they pretty much fit right. I can fit 2 of them, one here facing down, the other one facing up on all the track ports. So it makes it look like they're actually being bolted together. It's a little added detail. And then this is the baseboard I actually connected everything to that I then printed out. So yeah, this is pretty much how I model all my track pieces in Fusion 360. And then that model it can then be printed. And the last thing I want to show you guys though is a verification way to verify that what you created here is exact to the no limits model. All right, so to do that, we're going to go back into no limits. Or actually, no, we don't need to go in no limits. We need to go back into the extraction program. So make sure, like I said, 4.572 if you're doing the 1/30th scale. And instead of doing split type split after X nodes, just hit don't split. Let's change our output real quick too, so we don't get confused with the other outputs that are all the individual track spline pieces. So let's find YouTube video, and then let's hit new folder. We'll call this just single spline. And this is what we're going to do is make an export that is solely just one set of points. So I believe that's going in the right spot now. We'll double check it. Yep, single spline, hit OK. And then let's just hit calculate. And there we go. Now we just have one single track piece. So what we're going to do next is let's create a new file. And then we're going to go to utilities and let's add in that single spline. Okay, there it is. Let's scale it by 3.333. Okay, there it is. Oh. Let's bring this over a little more. Okay, let's double check, make sure these distances are correct. .48, perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a plane right at the end here. A plane along path. 3-point plane. Right there, there, and there. And then what we're going to do is hit create sketch. And let's just create just the rails. So let's do 10 millimeters. How about, that's a bit too big. Actually, let's do 5 millimeters. 5 millimeters there. And then 5 millimeters out here. And let's do a strength. Hit OK, hit finish sketch. And now let's do a sweep. So sweep. I guess we can do single path because they are just circles. Just make it follow this rail first. There we go. And then single path. Let's bring back the reason that sketch went away. I don't like how this program does that. Do another one. There we go. Now all we have is 2 rails. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this model and pretty much create a scenery piece that's just this model that then we can put into no limits and verify that it follows this track perfectly. So to get stuff into no limits, we need to use SketchUp. If you don't have SketchUp, you can get a free 30-day free trial if you just say you're a student. If not, it's $60 a year, which if you're into no limits, I'd recommend getting. It's really useful if you want to make your own scenery objects. Okay, well, let's go to export, change that to SketchUp file, and then just hit X. Oh, we need to make sure it goes in the right spot. Let's just put it in the YouTube video, save, let's hit export. So it needs to do it through the cloud, so this will take a little bit. So once it's finished, I'll be right back with you. Okay, this is complete. Close, and now let's open up SketchUp. Hit open file, and then let's see, it should be in YouTube video. There it is. Okay, so there it is in SketchUp. A nice little dive loop. So you don't have to do anything. You can change the colors if you want. I don't see the point to. So go ahead and export again as 3D model. Now it's going to export as a DAE file. So let's just put it directly into that part folder we were working on. Where is it? It's print coaster something. There we go. Okay, export. Now it's exported. Now let's open it up in no limits. Go ahead, hit scenery, and then should be under DA there. SketchUp, verify YouTube. Just hit OK. Let's add in the object. And now this is in millimeters. Now remember how I said this is 1/30th scale? So if we scale this by 30, this should give us the, it should exactly align up with the roller coaster. 30, 30, 30. Okay. And now let's just drag it over and see how well it lines up. Okay, and as you can see, it's almost a perfect match. So let's turn off the snap. Oh, because it's too high, that's why. So I have a lot of stuff being built right now in this park model. There we go. All right, and let's see. And as you can see, it lines up with the track almost perfectly. So I'd say this is a success. It's an exact replica of what we want from No Limits, and now we can have it built in Fusion 360, which can then be printed as a model. So that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this is a helpful tutorial. This is my first time doing some kind of video where I actually speak, so sorry if I start rambling on in places, but I really hope this is helpful. As I said, I apologize for the spline extract number being kind of at random. You really just have to do your own trial and error process of doing this verification method and just measuring stuff out in Fusion, figuring out what it should be based on your scale if you want to change this, but this is perfect for 1/30th scale. And anyways, I guess moving on, some of this stuff I've been working on, this is all my 3D printed stuff. I've been working on a 3D printed coaster for the past year, actually. And I'm at a point where I finished the train assemblies where I'm building something to put in a shelf in my apartment bedroom. So here's a little mock-up of my bedroom right now, and with the coaster on it. And hopefully I'll be making a video soon explaining everything I've done with that process. Because I'm not going to lie, making the track for a model coaster, this is the easy part. What I just showed you guys, that's the easy part. The hard part is making up your own train design that runs as efficiently as you want it to. At least for me, because I went with a design that's similar to what No Limit to what's the Intimate Blitz model uses, which has a lot of moving parts. So I guess maybe I shot myself in the foot with that one. But hey, it's fun and it's working now too. So like I said, I'll make a video coming up soon to explain, showing what I've done with that. So besides that though, I guess I'll finish off with some cinematics of the actual model I printed out of this loop. And other than that, have a great day and hopefully this helped. Bye.